There are two ways to win as a participant on Jubilee. Be the nicest, most cordial person.
How you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
Or be the most inflammatory, insulting person.
Don't be a smartass.
In this format, where each person only gets a few minutes to speak and can have that time cut short at any moment, no one can explore any subject or argument in depth. There's no time to present substantial analysis or well-sourced argumentation, or to be judged by your ability to deliver those things. The audience is left to evaluate each person's contribution to the episode by their emotiveness and their physical qualities, things that can shine through in only seconds. And so this gamified form of debate produces a competition of charisma, of pathos, and little else. The comments under this video illustrate this further. The atheists in this episode do very well in taking the cordial path to victory, as they kind of have to. We don't know these people. Most of them have modest platforms on social media like I do, but this is probably the first time most of the audience is meeting them. As with any first impression, we react most positively to a kind, likable person. Viewers in less secular parts of the world, including most of the US, tend to have some preconceived notions about atheists, that they're angry, pushy, socially inept. And in order for such viewers to take atheists here seriously, the atheist must overtly contradict those preconceptions. Most influential, though, is the fact that if any of the atheist challengers here isn't cordial, Peterson can deplatform them instantly.
Okay, I'm done with him.
A quick announcement, I'll be at the American Humanist Association's annual conference in Chicago, Illinois, June 27th through the 29th. Get your tickets now through the link in the description to come hang out with me, Taylor, and some other secular activists I think you should get to know. We aren't talking about this episode of Jubilee because the atheists were for the most part very good at being nice, though. No, almost anyone talking about this is doing so because Peterson was so condescending, purposely slippery, and even physically creepy here. He could behave this way as much as he wanted, not only because no one could cut his appearance from the show for it, but also because he didn't need to make a good first impression here. Tons of people entered into this already on his side, and he has a massive platform which benefits from more people talking about him, regardless of whether that's positively or negatively. So he's incentivized to act in a way which sparks dialogue, let's say. This is how the inflammatory path to victory works, and Peterson has bragged about this reality for years now.
I figured out how to monetize social justice warriors. It's like I'm driving the social justice activists in Canada mad because if they let me speak, then I get to speak, and then more people support me on Patreon. It's like, that's annoying. It's like, goddamn capitalist, he's making more money off this ideological warfare. It's like, okay, fine, let's go protest him. So they go protest me, and then that goes up on YouTube, and then my Patreon account goes way up. So it's like, they don't know what to do.
It's telling that any backlash from Peterson's side has less to do with him being a petulant crank and more to do with him being dodgy about calling himself a Christian. Yes, several actual news outlets have published on this, and the sources on the right, where Peterson resides, tend to focus on his refusal to identify as Christian, whereas left-leaning sources focus on Peterson lashing out at the one and only atheist that attempted the inflammatory path to victory. Of course, I was able to compare this coverage in just a few seconds with Ground News, an independent app and website I use every day in my real life and have gladly partnered with for years now. Check them out at ground.news/skeptic. I'm not sure if the one atheist, Danny, that attempted to take the inflammatory path did win much, though. From what I can tell, those on Peterson's side did not appreciate Danny's frankness, even though it made the truth come out. And those more left-leaning people just aren't talking about it as much as the right is. I mean, I am on the left, and no exaggeration, I only saw this coverage because of Ground News Blind Spot feed, a feature that shows you important stories that one side of the political spectrum or another is ignoring. I check Ground News from my email inbox daily, and it's great to have a feature like this integrated into that experience so that I don't miss out on stories due to my own political bias. If nothing else, get Ground News for the Jordan Peterson fan in your life. I think they're more likely to check their own bias with the help of a handy, impartial resource like this than with the help of a concerned friend or family member alone. So go to ground.news/skeptic or scan the QR code on your screen. There you can get the same Vantage plan I use every day for just $5 a month. Ground News helps make my highly researched and produced videos possible in the first place, so go support my excellent sponsor and you'll be supporting me at the same time. Despite their other actions, both Peterson and Jubilee itself repeatedly reinforce the idea that they are interested in good faith, collaborative, cordial dialogue. It's all over this episode, which we should remember is very much intentional given that these surrounded sessions are heavily edited. Jubilee's founder and CEO also publicly maintains that the goal of Jubilee is to bring people together through meaningful dialogue.
Yeah, we said that we wanted to be the Disney of empathy, and what we meant by that was we wanted to be the brand or the hub for all things empathy. And our mission at Jubilee is to provoke understanding and create human connections.
In this format, though, that kind of discourse is quite literally impossible by design. The show is called Surrounded. It's 20 versus 1. Each person only has a couple of minutes to speak and can be dismissed by either party without reason. I mean, give me a break. Jubilee needs conflict to survive. It in fact creates it in order to generate capital, then uses that capital to create more conflict with the ultimate goal of making conflict as public as possible in order to maximize capital. It's a business that takes our own points of division, packages them for consumption, and sells them back to us. This is obviously deeply immoral, to the point of being revolting, and if recognized by enough people, would, one would think, prevent their success. So they package their problem product as a solution, just as any company that sells poison from tobacco to oil does to save their reputation.
But we actually feel like difficult conversation is important in this day and age.
Peterson's career, meanwhile, is based on profiting from upholding and defending certain social institutions: capitalism, patriarchy, Western imperialism, and Christian hegemony. This is transparently what he appears in this episode to do. He typically does this by arguing that such institutions are inherent to the very fabric of reality somehow, that unchangeable structures within the human mind or the universe naturally bring them about, that humanity did not really create these systems, that they cannot change them, that resisting them is futile, that challenging them is perverse and should not be tolerated, that those who have challenged them effectively are literally inhuman, supernaturally evil monsters, that state violence, and even outright genocide, not collaborative, good faith dialogue, is an appropriate response to such challenges. Of course, if these systems are truly as inevitable and inherent to reality as Peterson argues, then they do not require defense. Yet, Peterson provides that, and is compensated for it extremely well, with much of that money coming from those that benefit the most from these systems. It is necessary for Peterson's career, then, for someone, whether him or his financiers, to understand that the systems he defends require constant maintenance to continue, and that his premise that such systems are inevitable is simply a useful fiction. Actual collaborative discourse with anyone critical of these systems is antithetical to his goal, as it risks uncovering the lie at the root of his entire project. Again, Peterson supports the imprisonment and/or mass execution of people that represent any real challenge to these systems. This is a repugnant fact that if a majority of people realized would hopefully destroy his career. So he must maintain the illusion that he just wants honest, cooperative dialogue aimed at uncovering truth. Around 27 minutes in, an atheist named Brian cautiously tells Peterson he wants a symbiotic, collaborative discussion, and JP responds with a smile and says, "Deal." Over an hour into the video, Peterson interrupts Ian's very normal line of questioning, telling him not to be a smartass, and Ian apologizes. In the final segment of the episode, Peterson gets to select an atheist to speak to again, and he chooses Xena, someone unbelievably skilled at preventing any perceived slight against him. Xena speaks to him like a parent speaks to a child on the verge of a tantrum, like how I was trained to speak to extremely reactive and aggressive adolescent boys in the group home I used to work for.
If you cannot make any claims about these stories, right, you don't know whether they're true or false, how do you know that your interpretation is the correct way?
So that's why I picked you. You ask intelligent questions.
In the episode's closing remarks, David regrets not having a deeper dialogue and says he should have been more cordial, like Xena, in order to make that happen. While Peterson and Jubilee claim they want to model respectful, productive dialogue, and they have much greater ability to do so than any of the atheists, they place the responsibility for creating such dialogue on the atheists. It's an atheist, Brian, that approaches Peterson with an explicit offer of collaboration and deference, but this has the effect of framing Peterson as a good faith interlocutor himself, as a guy who just wants to get along and will do so if someone treats him fairly for once. In fact, when he acts buffoonishly or spitefully, when he's petty or scowls or insults someone, and yet his interlocutor is pressured by the structure of this format to respond with kindness, patience, and most of all, coherent points, the resulting spectacle only reinforces the idea that Peterson should be seen as an honest intellectual, to be taken seriously always. No matter what this format models, he is to be treated with respect and his ideas held in high esteem. This is similar to something Sartre described in The Anti-Semite and Jew. Never believe that anti-Semites are completely unaware of the absurdity of their replies. They know that their remarks are frivolous, open to challenge, but they are amusing themselves, for it is their adversary who is obliged to use words responsibly, since he believes in words. The anti-Semites have the right to play. They even like to play with discourse, for by giving ridiculous reasons, they discredit the seriousness of their interlocutors. In this case, instead of behaving ridiculously to discredit the seriousness of his opponents, Peterson lifts a sense of his own seriousness from the behavior of his interlocutors. In effect, he behaves ridiculously, playing with words, to instill in the audience the sense that he is serious even when he does so. The message that this episode of Surrounded and many other Jubilee videos propagate, then, is that if you disagree with oppressive systems and those who represent and defend them, your primary concern should be your own tone of voice. Be nice to them, be docile and cooperate with them, it urges. There's no way to get what you want otherwise. This helps train the audience to shrink from challenging power in any meaningful way, from calling a genocide a genocide.
Also, a genocide is not a war.
Well, a genocide can be a war, but
Absolutely not.
From calling the Christian nationalists and uber-capitalist tech oligarchs taking over the US fascists.
Are you anti-fascist? Like, so you're
why are
anti-fascist?
you asking that?
I was just asking, just clarifying.
From resisting acts of violence from those authorities happening right now. From defending yourself from that violence. Not everyone comes away from watching content like this so conditioned. Plenty of you watching probably thought this spectacle made Peterson and perhaps even Jubilee look all the more detestable. Enough people, I think, are vulnerable to the conditioning this media performs, though, that it is useful to discuss this as a piece of effective propaganda. And to be clear, I don't mean to come down on Peterson's interlocutors here. None of you built this system, and I'm sure you're just trying to do your best to push this conversation forward, to represent atheists well, in order to create understanding between Christians and non-Christians. Most of the atheists approach this conversation in a way that would be healthy to replicate in dialogues with one's religious friends and family, and is the approach I myself generally encourage other atheists to take in most conversations about religion. This was not most conversations, though, as the religious person in this case held much more power over his interlocutors both inside and outside the context of the conversation, and maintains a career defending authoritarian regimes and the human rights abuses, including genocide, they commit. While I don't think engaging in shows like this with people like this is very productive, I want to urge anyone still listening at this point, focus your energy on criticizing those who actually orchestrate this kind of spectacle for power and profit. Jordan Peterson and Jubilee. All right, thanks for watching. I've been Drew of Genetically Modified Skeptic. A special thanks to my patrons for their constant love and support, and praise be unto Our Lady, River, my top patron and the official savior of this channel. You guys really do make it possible for me to refuse to go on Jubilee. I've turned them down multiple times now, and even possibly torpedo my chances of landing other media appearances. If you want to support my work, subscribe and check out the religious studies courses I produce with Dr. Joseph Laycock. As always, if you are an apostate in need, there are resources linked in the description to help you find community and mental health support. Remember to be kind to others in the comments, and until next time, stay skeptical.